Pardon my language, but why the heck would anyone pay $15,000 for full self-driving technology? Let's imagine that FSD is complete, it's mature, that the regulators have approved it for use, that you can drive using FSD without paying any attention to the road. Does that make a difference? Would anyone pay $15,000 for that technology when most people assume that they can drive just fine, that they're pretty safe, that they're pretty good? Many times they consider themselves expert drivers. I'm going to briefly share 6 reasons there why full self-driving is worth paying for and why it will be adopted on a large scale once it has reached that point of perfection, which probably means 99.99%, and it's 10 times safer than a human driver, as Elon often says. Hi friends, this is Peter Levy, aka Model 3 Man. Thank you for your support of the channel. Now, I'm quite sure that today there will be many contrary views, different viewpoints, and I'd encourage you to go down into the comments section and leave your opinions where we can all benefit from them. I always read every comment and I'm happy to respond to them as well. By the way, if you're in the market for buying a Tesla, as of now, the Tesla code referral system is back in operation, and if you're buying a 3 or a Y, you'll get $500 deducted from the price of the purchase. If you're buying an S or an X, you'll get $1,000 off the purchase price. In other words, by clicking on the referral code link and then going to the purchase page on Tesla, you get the discounts I've mentioned when you actually make that purchase. I do have a referral code. I'd love you to use mine. You get a benefit, I get a benefit, so it's a win-win for both of us. Reason number 1. We're pretty proud, most of us. And if you ask me, what kind of a driver are you, Peter? I would say, look, when I'm at my 100% best, I'm very good. I'm alert, I'm responsive, I'm aware, I'm safe. The question is, how many of us drive at our 100% level for even more than 20 or 30% of the time? And the answer to that, you don't want to know, because most of us, we're easily distracted by what happens inside the cabin. We are distracted by things or people that walk past the car. We're not always driving at 100%. And unfortunately, it's in those lapses of being our best that the accidents tend to happen. Yes, a human driver with good experience and good senses and responses is a very, very good and safe driver indeed. If only we could drive that way all of the time, we wouldn't need any assistive technologies. Number 2, it's pretty self-evident that the more cars on the road that are using a mature and full self-driving technology, the fewer accidents there are going to be. If all cars are looking out for each other through the use of FSD, clearly cars are going to avoid each other. So the more people or the more vehicles that have FSD as an add-on, as a purchased option, the safer will all of the cars on the road become. So the adoption of full self-driving in the majority of vehicles will lead to much, much safer driving conditions in all kinds of environmental conditions. Number 3, and here's an obvious one, and I know this doesn't apply to a lot of you. It may well apply to some of you who have aging or infirm parents or people with various handicaps. People who could normally not drive a car would be able to take advantage of FSD and now be mobile. Providing they are of sound mind, where they can punch in their destination, they can get the car to navigate to a particular destination, the correct destination, their physical handicap will not make any difference because it's the car that is successfully driving and it's the driver simply telling the car where to go and when to start. So for those of you that have parents that are aging, the hardest decision you ever have to make is when to take away their car keys. And that is a stressful moment in any family. So those of you who have that situation in your own families, you know exactly how difficult that is. And wouldn't it be wonderful to have a technology that allowed your parents to continue driving well into their declining years? Number 4, and this is really a big one, when you're traveling distances, the most dangerous situation is driver fatigue. That is when most accidents happen. The road and the dotted lines are almost hypnotic for many people. They're hypnotic because your eyes fix on a line, maybe the center line, maybe the edge line. After a while, your vision and your focus narrows to just that area in front of you. I used to drive from Vancouver to Calgary. It's about a 9 to 10 hour drive if you're really not doing too many stops. That is a terrible drive to go on because there are often many, many winding, curving parts of the journey where if you're not fully awake and fully alert, there are great dangers in wandering off the road, wandering out of the lane, wandering into other traffic. So when I used to drive, I'd typically do most of the driving and Janine would be the passenger. She'd arrive very refreshed, very relaxed. She's been looking at Instagram or watching videos or listening to her stories. And she gets there and she's quite comfortable. I get there and I'm so fatigued. You see, a long trip does that to us. Now, if you have FSD, here's what happens. You become a passenger. Yes, a very alert passenger. Yes, an observant passenger because you're watching your car. You're looking carefully to see that it is driving carefully. But the point is, you are as relaxed at the end of your journey as if you were a passenger. And I found that we drive to Kelowna very frequently. I drove to Calgary the other day. You get there and you're still relaxed. You're not tired out of your mind. So FSD enables you to be relieved of the heavy responsibilities of keeping that vehicle in the lane and watching out for traffic and watching out for surrounding things. At the same time, you can relax like a passenger, but you'll be alert to what the car is doing. By the way, I just remembered and I wanted to mention, I was fortunate enough to have dinner the other evening in Mahoney's Tavern, downtown Vancouver, with the legendary Sandy Munro and Corey Steuben. Sorry if I get that wrong, but Corey and Sandy, legends in the industry. Just to sit and to listen to him, listen to them, that was an absolute privilege, an absolute pleasure. So I want to thank them for coming down to Vancouver. They came to review a lithium recycling plant. I think it was lithium battery recycling. And the evening before, they tweeted out that they'd be in Mahoney's Tavern and anyone could come and just meet them. And I was there and I was privileged. So thank you, guys. The debt we owe you in the Tesla community is incalculable. Your life experience, your work experience, the skill that you have is something that each of us benefits from each day. So link to Sandy Munro's Munro Live channel down there and to their Twitter accounts as well. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Corey. Number 5, FSD has far greater capabilities than the best human being on the planet. Here's an example of that. How observant am I, or are you as a driver, to the 360 degrees of space around you? If you want to look left or right or forward or backward, you've got to glance at the left mirror, glance at the right mirror, or glance at your rear view mirror, or look through the windshield to the front end. In other words, to get to view the 360 degree space around you takes 4 turns of your head in order to accomplish that. For the car, it has 8 cameras at this point in time. That number may increase within the near future, but 8 cameras that do cover 360 degrees around us, as well as a certain level above and below. And that means that the car is instantly aware, simultaneously, of every direction on the compass around the car. So it sees that car creeping up on your right-hand side, or it sees that cyclist on the left trying to pass you on the left-hand side. It is aware at all times, simultaneously, of every direction. You cannot say that for a human. And likewise, there are many other situations where a human is slower or not quite as competent as the car that is making perhaps thousands of calculations each second and has full vision around it. And that is where FSD has us humans beat. Number 6, what we so often forget is that driving is a matter of life or death. Now, if you want to think of it as insurance, FSD is the best insurance you could take out to ensure that you or your family members or you and the entire family are actually going to stay safe on the road. In the United States, around 40,000 people die on the road each year. 40,000 living human beings with lives and stories and families and connections are dead because of a car. In Canada, it's more like 2,000. We have far smaller populations than you in the States. But for each country, those are needless deaths. They're quite unnecessary. Driving is one of the highest risk activities we as humans engage in, aside from war, which we hope we don't get into anytime soon. But driving is a risk that we willingly take on because we have to be mobile. That's part of our culture. It's part of the joy of living is to be able to travel around and get to where you want to go. So doesn't it make sense that if you look at FSD as pure insurance, it's going to be worth whatever it costs to help keep you safe? If we ask the question, what price can we put on life? Well, generally people are they're not really willing to answer that question because it involves some kind of a judgment of the value of other lives. But if I said to you, what value do you place on your life? How much do you value your own life? Well, for us, there is no calculation. We value it infinitely. And whatever cost it might take to save our own lives, we would do that. If we had a disease or cancer or something, we would go to any expense to try and get healed. So I'll end with that. FSD, when it reaches that level of regulator approval and perfection to the point where it is going to be completely safe, I honestly believe that there's really no debate about it. The debate will be about the price and whether or not we have to pay with a lump sum or we can pay through subscriptions, or whether we can buy it at a discount. That might be the debatable point. But the full self-driving technology is an obvious win for every single one of the reasons that I've given you. Anyway, thanks for listening to me. We'll chat again soon. I love your support of the channel, and I hope you continue watching the Model 3 Man channel. Thanks, and cheers for now.